And I feel that dance can really boost up that space of knowing who you are and how you are and reduce the noise from society. Women, I think we are so much happier, I think, really, when we have we're as wide and as broad and deep as we can be. Let's take dance away. I think movement is the real word. And when you pair that with music, music engages your whole brain. It's the only thing that engages your whole brain. And then when you add movement into that, it just fixes your brain. It fixes your nervous system. It sets you down, and 5 minutes, it's like deep breathing, a little dance, reading, and you're set.
Hi everyone, I've got a small favor to ask. I know that many of you have been watching these conversations over the past couple of years with people who inspire. It would mean a lot to us, and it would help us continue to have these conversations if you would just subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Nirupama, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for accepting our invitation. I've seen you a couple of times downstairs at the gym as You're getting ready to do the classes. Usually with kids, it's usually the kids' classes. And they all look so happy. I've got a friend's daughter, Berna's daughter, who does classes. Berna said to me that she will drag herself out of bed if she's sick to come to your class. She enjoys it so much. But before we get into your passion for dance, I read a couple of articles about you prior to us meeting, and I was very intrigued by the start of your life. And I read that you spent your first couple of years on a ship.
Yes.
First of all, why? And second, how did do you have many memories from that?
Okay, so actually none. My memories actually start from Hong Kong when I was 3, but I've heard so much. I have photos. So my dad was a captain in the Merchant Navy from India. So my mom and him have traveled the world. She had 3 babies actually.
On a ship?
And raising her. My sister's 3 years older than me, and then I was born. And previous to my sister, we had a brother, but he passed away soon after being born. So by the time I came along, my mum was like, land me somewhere. Do not take me off these ships. These kids are everywhere. It's a huge Merchant Navy vessel. But apparently we were spoilt rotten by the staff, and because we were the captain's kids, so there was no rules and regulations for us. But my memories really do. My mom kind of put her foot down with my dad and said,
"You have to stop somewhere."
Yes. And so they chose Hong Kong. I think they had the option of Australia, Hong Kong, and
Are they
chose
both
Hong
Indian?
Kong. They are proper. Never left India until my dad had this job, and they traveled the world together then on ships. But first generation to leave India and move to Hong Kong from our whole family. Yeah.
Wow. And presumably, it's funny you say that, because I don't know whether you know him. I interviewed someone who's originally from India a few months ago, Mehul, and he left school. He left uni, actually. He stopped uni to go and work on a ship for a couple of years. And I just thought that it's just you're the second person I meet from Indian origin who just, spend some of their lives on a ship.
I think at that time, 40, 50 years ago, there was that sort of that was the best job you can get, almost like a job overseas. You get onto a Merchant Navy ship and you get to go to all these countries. You travel around, and then after that you always ended up in a government job. So it was quite a secure route, I think. Yeah, and if you had a bright mind, that's what they were looking for, and
And how did you find Hong Kong?
Oh,
you loved it.
I loved Hong Kong. I think I had the best childhood because it's sort of what made me fall in love with Mauritius. I want to bring up my kids here. It was in the 80s and 90s, and it was such an international hub. And I grew up, so my memories begin in Hong Kong. I don't really remember India or the ship. And childhood there was you are just one of many, but you fit and you don't need a box. So I wasn't particularly Indian, I wasn't not Chinese, you were just a human person, and it was such a safe, secure place. And thankfully my parents were the kind of parents who, we were in the mountains, in the ocean, all the time, dancing outside. I think people think of Hong Kong and think of a concrete jungle. Not at all.
That's what I had in mind.
Not at all. I mean, my whole childhood, I just remember being in the ocean or in a boat or in the reservoirs near China.
It's a lot of nature around you.
Yes, just naturally going for long drives. Yeah.
And is that where your love of dance started?
Yes.
Okay, tell me about that.
Right. So I was crazy about gymnastics. And I would go for these competitions and I was just, I'm going to be a gymnast. That's what I'm going to be.
So you were always quite flexible as a person?
Yes, I think so. Just, I think more naturally than, I didn't really, I should have valued it a lot more.
Yeah, it's when you get older that you realize, why am I so stiff now?
I know with my kids now, I'm like, you need to split. I may not be able to
anymore.
Push. Yes, and I grew tall. And I outgrew the apparatus. And so my gymnastics teacher had sat me down and said, you have to stop. I guess in those days, it was just you had a certain height, that was the height of the equipment, and I outgrew it. And I was heartbroken. And my mum is such a brilliant person. She forced me into dance. And I was like, no. I want to go climb trees. I want to do things. And
classical dance?
No, at that time, there was only one teacher, Mrs. Vidya Chelam. And I guess what I am doing now, possibly, it's called folk at that time. I call mine Bollywood.
Right.
At that time, it was called folk. So a bit of classical, but everything. Across India, lots of different styles.
Yeah.
And I realized that it made me happy. And I didn't have to put much effort into it. So as a child, it kind of just seamlessly took me down this other route. And I think in Hong Kong, it's a real cultural hub of Indian, so many celebrations, and it's so mainstream. And then lots of the different, like the Buddhist culture, the British were there. There was just so many opportunities to learn. But then I got very lucky. This is about 7 years old. And then I got really, really lucky at about, I would say 12 or 13, where my guru, Sri Rama, came to Hong Kong for her PhD, just by chance. And I fell into the classical world of Bharatanatyam. And then I was in love. Up until then, it was just easy and flowing, and, we performed.
You didn't have to be particularly technical.
I wouldn't say I was passionate. It was just enjoyable. And then the discipline of Bharatanatyam and my teacher and the way she taught with love, I never ever felt disciplined or all those things that are attached to classical dance. She just made it loving.
Was it her method of teaching, or was it, you could tell, she was teaching something that she truly loved, or what was it about her that...
That's a really good question. I've never understood how she did it, because I would go on Sundays voluntarily every morning, or take 2 buses with my sister and go and learn, which now I have children, I realize.
In those days you did those things.
Yes, we did, but I did it so happily. I don't remember a moment where I said, I do not want to go. And I think I genuinely felt she loved teaching me. I just felt that she was so happy to have us here, and whatever effort we made was enough. It was never a lack. It was not from a place of lack. I think it was a place of love. And she was such an elegant, beautiful, she walked and talked dance and love. And creativity and patience. So it wasn't an act, it wasn't a class, it was just, she is a beautiful soul.
Until you left?
Yeah, until I was 18 and went off to university.
And did you carry on after when you were studying?
I stopped training after that. But then the lovely thing about England is you meet all these international students, local students, and then there's all these clubs, and there's, again, a lot of opportunities. Yeah. So then you meet people who've also learned Bharatanatyam or Kuchipuri or Kathak. And so the dancing continued. But I guess my training ended, official classical training ended from Hong Kong, really.
But I guess these are the things that you never lose. No, you never quite lose.
No, I think it's
the method, the
literally technique. Riding a bike. So I don't teach Bharatanatyam because I have been out, it's that rustiness.
Right.
So I incorporate all my Bharatanatyam into my dancing. I tell all my parents, my kids' parents, let them do Bollywood. Let them do this until the age, I stop at 10. Right. And after this, go into classical. Don't do it the other way around. A lot of kids do, a lot of parents want their kids to start really early, and then they all complain that the kid's unhappy, I have to force them. And I think once you've instilled
that love of dance,
that ease with movement, that playfulness, the power that comes with, I can create something when I hear music. Then you put that in, and if you marry that with the passion of classical dance, then you flourish. So coming back to your question, I think it's there in me, and I kind of keep seeping it in. We do stories with the kids, and I try to like ask them to, how would you imagine to do this? And I will kind of gesticulate it. But my drive now is to make people fall in love with dance. I want to be the root of that, and then I hope and I wish that they find their passion ahead.
Yeah. And I think dance is the kind of thing that you don't have to be a dancer to love dance.
Not at all. And that, I think you've just hit the nail on the head for what I do. I want everyone, because put on music and someone's foot starts tapping, or it brings back a memory, or I know that song. There's such a connection to music and movement, and it's inherent. It's a babies will wiggle there, you know?
Yeah.
It's within us. It's like breathing. So I would love, you don't have to be a ballet dancer or a Bharatanatyam performer on stage to dance.
Yes, you can always get joy from all forms of dance. And I think a lot of people think that I'm not a good dancer. What would you say to them?
I
two left feet.
I hear this all the time, and I'm just like, please come. Just come to my class.
Try.
And just see how you feel. And everyone comes in and they apologize to me. I'm so sorry. I would really like to dance, but I can't dance. And I'm just like, and by the end of the class, they're like, what? What? Like, because they do dance.
Yeah.
And who's to say the way you dance is better than the way someone else's dances? It's just how the element that you bring in is unique to you, and what else is dance? It's an expression that is unique to a person. So everyone dances.
Agreed. We'll get back to the dance. I just want to put a pin on that and go back to something else that I found fascinating when I read about your studies. You studied molecular genetics and then neuroscience. Why? And then why not? Why did you not pursue a career in it?
That. Okay, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was one of those people. So at school, I didn't have a clear... I loved school. I loved all my subjects. I loved learning. And I was like thinking, okay, what allows me to keep learning? That was my thought process when I was going to university. And I sort of had the awareness that once I fall in love with something, I can then pursue that. But I don't want to pursue something without having that clarity. And science is just about life. And I love that about biology, that it's so vast and it literally explains the world, and it marries in geography, history, evolution. Everything kind of comes into biology the way I saw it.
I think if you have a curious mind, basically.
I found it fascinating. It felt like reading a novel when I'd read biology.
Wow.
It was a lot of learning, I could say.
You're a proper geek then.
Yes, I was a nerd. Still am. I totally get so excited. Anyway, another story. And molecular genetics, I think just because I find genetics, like it's how we are made up. So I guess it's just curiosity at the end of the day, which then there was a in my final year, but I realized while I was doing it that I still hadn't found my passion. So then my plan was a master's or PhD, and I'd go into academia, wanted to go to the States. So I had a sort of plan, but then I did neuroscience in my final year. And I fell in love with that because of the brain. And I'm like, oh, that's the center of everything. Who you are is all determined from your brain. And then I wanted to know about the connection between, when you identify with, who am I? Where does that live? What does that look like on a physiological level? So that's sort of what I thought I'd want to do my PhD on. I may be jumping ahead, so I went into a master's with neuroscience. And that's when I realized, why not?
Right.
Because I realized a postgrad is very different to an undergrad, where it's very open. And as a scientist, you have to be in love with what you're doing. It's very insular. You have to...
And very isolating as well.
Very isolating. And I wasn't there. I loved what I did. I loved the subject. I loved the learning. But I was not willing to sacrifice living and devote everything into my experiments or hypothesis, I didn't have that commitment, and I sort of realized that kind of looking up, and I saw, my fellow students, and they were going to labs. I didn't know labs were open on the weekend.
So you never went at the weekend.
And that was a big sign. Alongside ethics, for me, I found it very difficult. I choose to be a vegetarian. And you have to experiment on animals, especially neuroscience. You do a lot of experimentation on animals. You take lives, because I was looking at embryo development.
So live.
Yes. Yeah. And I just had a huge awakening of academia may not be for me. And
were you already a vegetarian then, or did that
at 19?
Right.
So my whole childhood, my family are Punjabi. I do not know if you know. It was like, you will eat meat. Or if you have nothing else to eat, you can have veggies with meat. And I just always felt like
it didn't sit right with
me. And then at 19, I remember my thesis for my undergrad was in farming methods in the UK. Eating my burger, watching a video, and I was just like, oh, I'm 19. I don't have to, I can choose. And that was the last burger I ever ate, last meat.
Your parents must have been shocked.
They were horrified. And I think they've only recently given up hope. I think when I was pregnant, they're like, oh, she'll go back now.
Yeah, exactly. She'll have that craving but you never did.
No, never ever. And I instantly felt better. I felt aligned with what was already within me, yeah.
So is that the main reason why the ethics of it, I guess, and as you said, the lack of sort of hunger to learn by yourself
yes, I couldn't isolate and devote my life to one little thing. I felt very much so that I'm a person who kind of looks up and out rather than down and in, or at least at that moment. And I'm glad. I felt terrible because my parents, international student and Indian family. I remember my mom, I came back from Hong Kong and she was like, Niru's a neurosurgeon. And I'm like, no, mama. Bless. The dream she had. And I was like, actually, I am moving away from science.
I am dancing.
Yes. Well, at that point, dancing was still...
Okay, we're still not on the cards.
No, not at all. Yeah,
so then we fast forward and somehow, I don't know how, but somehow you end up in Mauritius. Yes. How? Again, I had thought there was, another half that pulled you here, but I understand that wasn't the case.
No,
so
not really.
Why this tiny dot in the middle of the...
I had the same question in 2010. So we were in London. We have 2 kids. We're both working full time, and I was happy. I was like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm sorted.
Yeah, and London had all that cultural access at my footstep, and I loved my job, and the kids were wonderful. We had family there, so I was happy. However, there was that feeling of, I'm not sure I want my kids to be educated here, because there's a lot of pressure on young children. I could feel the pressure in 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, and I wanted my kids to be children. So there was only maybe that for me. For my husband, the financial crisis hit, and he's in finance.
Right.
And I think we were on our way to Singapore, and then the financial crisis hit. And I was open to traveling and leaving. I've moved around quite a lot by then. And then randomly, he would travel to Mauritius anyway, 4 times a year for his work.
Right.
And I think he came back to me in April or March of 2010 saying, what about Mauritius? And I was
You'd never been before.
I had to Google, was Google even there at that time? Yes, it was. Okay, I had to Google exactly where it was. I knew, but I was like, ooh, and I'm like, ooh, honeymoon destination.
Yes.
Do they have hospital? I was very embarrassingly not educated about
No, I totally understand. If you've never been before, why would you,
I did not know, and I didn't know why he wanted to, but he explained it reminded him of his childhood in Kenya, where there's space and it's simpler. And I initially was very hesitant because I'm a city girl. I was like, New York, Singapore, Hong Kong, Mumbai, maybe.
Cosmopolitan,
Yes. Yeah. All this, you grow up, you get spoiled having everything accessible. But he was very clever, and he brought us here on holiday. Everything went wrong.
Went to a nice hotel? Oh, everything went wrong?
Everything went wrong.
Right.
Everything went wrong. My kids got chicken pox. We had to vacate the villa. And we rented a villa in the north, so he was really, really strategic about it. So we didn't stay in a hotel. We rented a villa. He had a cook, he had a
so you're like, you know, the life that you want, it's here.
So it was a test run of life, but the minute we landed in Mauritius, and there was the old airport, that tiny little,
yes,
I fell in love because
really?
because people were smiling and there was a sense of time. They weren't racing against time, I felt. They had time.
It's not like being a tube in London where
yes.
Yeah.
And they liked children. Wherever we went, they weren't ignored. And you know, central London, there are no old people and no children. It can feel like that. It's very much productive. And then everything went wrong, so we got to test out a lot of the medical facilities, and we went to Clavis, we looked at homes, and I was like, all right. And I quit my job when we got back. We moved here 2 months later.
Wow. So
just for the peace and the time for the children to grow up. And I think for Dean as well, my husband, the opportunity for him to build something, which in a big city like London wouldn't have been possible. Yeah.
Fast forward 14 years, do you feel you made the right choice for your family?
Absolutely, for the children. Absolutely. They have grown up very much like possibly both Dean and I did, where we are out in nature, we are comfortable, we are safe, we are cared for. I've had time at home with them whilst working as well. Sometimes I feel like I've brought them up in a bit of a bubble.
Yeah.
Especially, I guess, with COVID hitting and us not realizing early enough that we're really far away from family. So, but those are big reasons, but I think I'm still very, very grateful that my kids have grown up in this multicultural, stunning island, grown up with the same friends.
Yeah.
They've had the childhood that I think I couldn't have wished better for them.
Yeah.
The missing component is family, or roots, maybe.
Are your family still in Hong Kong?
So no, they left. So India, England, Canada are our main family places. So that's where we travel to usually.
Wow, so they've gone to Canada now?
So my parents separated. So my dad, actually they both now live in India. So yeah. Yeah,
so India. Still very much an international family.
Absolutely, exactly. And so it was easy for everyone to just keep coming to us.
Yeah.
But that meant holidays rather than roots and homes and
Of course. And I totally agree with you about the children. I always say that is the main reason. So I lived in London for almost 14 years. And then I came back here after my daughter was born. And I always said to my husband, I want them to have the sort of childhood that I had.
Yeah.
But sometimes I do worry that they are in a little bit of a bubble. I love keeping them innocent.
Yes.
But sometimes I speak to my friends back in the UK or my nieces and nephews, and you just think they're so much more precocious, or they're exposed to things that I don't want my children to be exposed to just yet. I know they will have to at some point. Yes. And it's not an easy answer. I think, there's pros and cons on both sides. But I love the childhood they have, and I love how happy they are.
I align with you. I totally hear you. It's exactly that. I mean, I think they will have the rest of their lives to grow up and attune themselves to how the actual world works. But this is the only time they can actually legitimately live in a bubble, and it's okay, and they get nourished from the other side. So completely. Very grateful.
Wonderful. Let's go back to dance. So you quit your job in the UK, you settled in Mauritius. Presumably your kids were still quite young then.
Yes, they were 2 and 3,
And did you stop to become a mother, to take on an even more important job, which is that of a mother?
Absolutely. And I think maybe that's the part that in hindsight I wasn't so aware of what I was giving up as such, because so when we moved, I came as a dependent. So, and we were very happy that there was at least one parent at home with them, guiding them at all times, and it's a huge blessing, and really, really grateful for that. I think as they grew though, I realized that, for one, as I said, I've always been a very curious and connected person with the world, but motherhood is isolating. And especially in Mauritius, I think it can feel not the whole of you is fully engaged. And it's not to take away from motherhood, but I do think there is a need to value a whole to women.
Of course.
And it's actually my children who woke me up to that fact where, you know, all that question of what will you be when you grow up? What will you be when you grow up? And I realized that my kids literally have only known, they couldn't remember London when I was working full time. And
they were still very little then.
They were 2 and 3, yeah. So they literally, you know, we used to live in Floreal, so we'd pass the Prime Minister's house. And I remember my son saying, oh, Daddy could be Prime Minister. And I was like, yeah, so could Mom. And
it's like, the conditioning.
It is. Yeah. And his answer was, but then who'll pick us up? Oh. And I was like, oh, Baba, if I was Prime Minister, Daddy would.
Of course.
Right? And I realized that their view is not what I would, either Dean and I would wish for them to have, that a woman is only a nurturer. I think we can be both, just as a father can be. And that sort of really ignited a drive within me to be both and return back to that world and have an identity as Nirupama, rather than just
a
mom, wife, homemaker, which is huge and hardest job in the world. Anyone will say.
I always say it's much harder than me sitting at my office on the computer.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Hot coffee. Yeah.
Exactly.
So that, yeah.
Did you then fall back into dance?
Yes. So I think dance has just been a shadow my whole life without really much effort, I would say. And I remember very early on, I think we moved in October 2010, Easter 2011, a friend was organizing a Easter fiesta at Phoenix Les Isles at that time. Okay. And she was just like, I know you dance. Can you do like a workshop for the kids? And I was like, sure, why not? And I just loved, so I did, I think it was like over 3 days, and all these different kids came and I just got them to dance. And
amazing.
I was like, I love the kids. Alongside the fact that my kids, I felt, were very physically active just because of the way our family is. Yeah. But I felt when their friends would come over, you know, there's a bit of cushioning sometimes. And I felt that, you know, they would be tired just walking up some stairs.
Yes.
And I'd look around, and at that time in 2010-11, there was only football as an activity. And then you had like cooking or, you know, drawing, but there wasn't much activity-wise. And so I just saw that space, and it all just started with like, okay, all the kids at home, we're going to dance. And it just sort of blossomed from there. And I didn't intentionally make that.
Yeah.
I would not have imagined that it would be my career, actually, even then. It was just, I fell into it. Yeah.
So then you started with the kids.
Yes.
And at that time, had you come up with this concept of Bollywood or not yet?
No, it was very much at that time, just dance class. So kids come and dance, and I teach you to dance, and we'll have fun together, we'll play games together. Just natural instinct. And I hadn't really stopped to think, and I think I was in the throes of motherhood as well. So I hadn't really understood what I now understand dance to be, the power of dance. But I think somehow there was an instinct in me that women started coming, and I first just took, I was still a very dedicated mother and wife at that time. So it was kind of like on a Sunday in my spare time. And if my kids were ill, no class, you know, it's just kind of like very free to all. Yeah. And then I would, you know, some women would be like, can we take some private classes? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And I realized that women didn't have the space to be vulnerable, to explore a passion. They almost felt guilty taking time out of their life to come and do something that they had an enjoyment for. Yeah. And it made me really sad. And I was like, well, I could create that space, because I congratulate all the women who come for choosing themselves. And that's sort of where it came through. And then health has always been, I've always been quite sporty. And I remember, I think it comes down to my mum from a very young age. She, you know, as an Indian, she was very sporty. She represented her state in India. She's very athletic.
Oh, wow.
And so when we were growing up in Hong Kong, I remember my other friends' parents would not allow them to swim. You know, it's a very Asian concern, especially as we became teenagers. Like, you know.
There were boys around.
Yes, and I remember me and my sister would be like doing the cross country and going for the races. Yeah. And And my mum, I would overhear her having conversations with people where people are like, why are you letting your daughters dance on stage? Why are you letting your daughters wear swimsuits? And she'd be like, I don't,
Why not?
why not? And she was a feminist without knowing it. And I would hear her kind of say, as long as they want to do something, and the minute, and she was like, if the boys are doing it, my girls can do it.
Brilliant.
And
so there was just you and your sister.
It was just me and my sister, and we did everything. And so I came here I've raised my kids with this mindset. And here again, I found that bubble, that restriction, the sort of not everywhere, but it's enough that it concerned me. And I wanted to, but I also knew that people trusted me. They knew that I'm not, it's a fine balance of being very comfortable in who you are and then making choices from that and choosing something for the sake of society.
Right, yeah.
And I feel that dance can really boost up that space of knowing who you are and how you are and reduce the noise from society, which gives you the power to then live the way you want, which I know it's just dance.
Oh, that's beautiful.
But it does do that.
That's beautiful. And also feel in, because it's women classes, to feel that they're not being judged.
Not at all.
And they're in a safe space.
Yes.
And also to kind of, I love what you said about to be something else other than. So I think the mum guilt is something we all suffer from.
Yes.
Luckily, my husband is incredibly supportive. He's always pushing me to say, no, you need that time for yourself.
Thank you, husband. Yes, absolutely.
And it's so important because I think it's in our DNA that we feel that time away from kids is because we're working as well, and we feel any free time has to be with them.
Yes.
But I think that over time I've learned that quality matters more than quantity.
100%. And I do think it's a guilt that we are carrying, that it comes from society, not really from women. Traditionally, women have been the sort of holders of the community.
Yes.
They have been the ones who've, faced the world outside. Men traditionally have been the hunter-gatherers, the
provider.
Sort of going to work.
Yeah.
Yes. And so we lost that somewhere as we sort of, I think, it got more industrialized and we had to work. And then suddenly there was no community for people, families, and so women then had to pick up everything, and then so you've got no time for just you. Yeah. And whether it's dance or it's podcasting or hiking, I saw somebody, I love hiking as well. Women, I think we are so much happier, I think, really, when we have we're as wide and as broad and deep as we can be. Yeah. And we don't need to isolate to just homemaker, work, family.
Completely. And they're all so interconnected as well. We were chatting before and we were talking about the podcast, and I was telling you that I genuinely believe that it's enabled me to be a better lawyer. And the same concept could apply to dance. Whatever you are, whatever else you do in life. I read an article, I think you mentioned something about, from your background in neuroscience, that the sort of endorphins and all the chemicals, the wonderful hormones that get released from your system when you are in that space where you feel deeply connected with your body. Absolutely. But at the same time, you're doing something you truly enjoy. Yes. And if you're happier, then that carries through to, you're not shouting at your kids, you're not being snappy at your husband, you're happy at work.
Yes. You're full and you are fed, so you can feed 100%. And that's what all the women, they come for different reasons, but all of them leave better than they walked in.
Amazing.
So that refueling really, and it's not just an overnight or evening fill. And I didn't know that. This is the feedback that women have given, and that's where I've realized it's more than dance. It carries on for the whole week. It builds, it gives them the sparkle back. You find, I think a lot of us sadly have isolated from our bodies and our creativity, vitality, and music, dance, any sort of movement is medicine. And like you said, yes, there's all that science that we all are hearing about.
Yes.
But I think it's also just something that you cannot even put a name on, but it's anything that sparks joy in you, that we say, oh, happy, joy. We don't actually value those things, but that's kind of what life is
and should be.
It should be and
about.
It's accessible, and we just need to find those places. And I think the more we find those places, you build it within yourself. So you carry it wherever you go. Like you were saying, it feeds back into your family, feeds back into your work. You're a whole person. Yeah, absolutely.
Totally agree with you. Is there, I think your class is about 75 minutes, is that correct?
Yes.
Is there a minimum that would, if you were a doctor of dance, is there a minimum prescription that you would say you need to have at least this to, I guess there's no minimum, but if in an ideal world, all things being equal, time not being the precious resource that it is, what minimum would you say that someone should?
I would say every day.
Really?
Maybe
do you
not
dance
75
every day?
minutes. I pretty much do. I'm the sort of person who, I'm a Gemini, so I have like 10 things going on all at once. And music's always playing. And if music's playing, my body's moving.
Yeah.
And I consider that dance. I don't think you have to like put everything away and perform. Have it as a part of your lifestyle with your kids. Like I do silly dances and embarrass my teenagers. I'm so sorry. Okay, I'm a dance teacher. It's a lot easier for me to integrate dance. But I think let's take dance away. I think movement is the real word. And when you pair that with music, music engages your whole brain. It's the only thing that engages your whole brain. And then when you add movement into that, it just fixes your brain. It fixes your nervous system. It sets you down. And 5 minutes, it's like deep breathing, a little dance, reading, and you're set. These are beautiful things to do, and you don't have to do, it doesn't have to be 75 minutes, But I do see the ladies who come, I think like anything, consistency, regularity, you just start tuning in quicker, and you hold that space longer. Just like meditation. I think I do karate as well, and it's,
oh wow,
that's my challenge, because dancing is easy to me. So for me, the growth really comes from putting myself out of my comfort zone area. So karate for me is definitely that. But it's a challenge. I think every single day I tell my ladies, like, even if you're not going to do anything, just do like some movement every day. I think it's vital, and I feel like society is moving in that direction now. But we really need to love moving our bodies. Yeah,
because we've gotten used to this. I'm listening to this podcast at the moment that's talking about the sort of the convenience, as we've moved away from the hunter-gatherer age, we're becoming more and more sedentary.
Yes.
And when you look at the levels of sickness in the world, I think not all of it, but a lot of it is due to our sedentary lifestyle. And then it's a feedback loop. The more, I think, the less energy you have, the less you want to move, and the less you want to move, the less energy you have.
Yeah.
Actually, you mentioned karate, and I do want to ask you a question about doing things other than dance. And the reason why I asked that is that obviously you have ladies of all ages, presumably. Yes. So as you grow older, do you think it's enough to just move, or should you aim to incorporate other forms of fitness in your life?
Yes, that's a really good question. I'm glad you asked me, because this is, I think, my next deep dive in life.
Yeah.
So why dance is prescribed it's in cultures, doctors will prescribe it. There's so much science coming out about the benefits, is because it is movement, but in dance you're learning choreography. So you're having to really get uncomfortable, because it's not easy. It's learning a new language, and it changes all the time, different music, sometimes different languages. So you're constantly using your brain and creating new pathways, which is keeping the plasticity fluid.
Yes.
It's vital. And then the movements in dance versus maybe a gym, which I love. I work with weights as well. The thing about dance is you're always off balance. You're jumping, you're squatting. You're never doing the same repeated movement.
Right.
So your brain and your body connection, your reflexes, the strengthening of your tendons, your lungs, it's a full and complete package.
I see.
However, I think at a certain point, so some women come in and it's a challenge, and I love that for them. They are going to benefit the most. Like you said, you sort of need to get out of that cycle of, they come with, very young women are in pain, children even actually.
children as well.
Yes,
Gosh.
it breaks my heart. But as soon as the great news is your body is made to respond to anything that is really good for it. So the minute you start, it adapts, and people literally are transformed. And no jokes, it's true. But once it gets easy, you need to do other things. You need to. So that is sort of why I chose to do karate. I've never hit a soul. I've never hit anyone in my whole life.
I do Muay Thai, so I'm with you on that.
Okay, yes. And
I've never hit anyone, that's why I practice on something else.
My sister's always so embarrassed with me because she was a black belt when she was in her 20s.
Wow.
You know, she's like the tough cookie in our family, and I'm like just the graceful dancer.
When did you start?
In my late 30s, so the last 9-10 years now.
Right.
With my kids. And I don't have that feeling of aggression, like I'm going to punch it out and get it all out. I don't have any of those things. But the discipline, you must know, to know how to control and move your body in the way you want, as quickly as possible, and keep improving. There's no perfection achieved. That's what continues. I think it marries on with the dance, beyond eating right, sleeping right, having a good family relationships.
Of course.
The challenge, I think, is vital. And what we tend to do is love our comfort zones.
Yeah, we love being in our comfort zone. And it reminds me of, I don't know whether you've heard of him. You might have because of neuroscience background. I love listening to Dr. Humer Ben.
Oh, yeah.
His podcasts are so long, but I don't always have time to do every week. But I remember listening to an episode when he was talking about you always need to incorporate an element of unpredictability, like you said, unlike the gym where you know what you're doing and your body adapts so quickly.
Yes.
Whereas if you involve, whether it's dance or karate or skateboarding, you have to involve an element where your brain will have to think.
Yes, not know what to do.
Exactly.
And find a solution. Yeah. And yes, exactly.
Wow, I did not think about that when thinking about dance, but it's opened my eyes to another side of dance that I hadn't thought about, that you're right, you have to, even when you're learning a choreography, it works on your memory.
Yes, it's even working on your vulnerability and sort of releasing of shame or limitation. It's really unshackles you because you are now in this space. Some women will learn it really quickly, some won't. Some will struggle, some will. So now you're in this space where you could have self-judgment and leave because it's too difficult, or you stay and you persevere and you progress. And that is, I try not to move into very shishi la la words, but power. In society, we want humans who feel very much in their power, which I think what karate or any other discipline like dance and all do is basically, if you are in your power, you don't need to prove anything to anyone. Sure. You don't walk with hostility in the world. Yeah. You are at ease with who you are and how you are, which just it creates that in your energy. Yeah. And we need that because I think people are walking around, I feel very much for the world right now. It's a lot of pain, and it comes from powerlessness, or it comes from a disconnect with who you are.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
So all of these things, whatever it may be, and yes, I found it to be dance, and I do think it really speaks. It's an easy hand to hold because it's so culturally celebrated and welcomed. But my wish is for the world to find that place where maybe it's meditation, maybe it's writing a novel, maybe it's... I heard your trip to Machu Picchu. It's been my number one dream, and I haven't done it yet.
Oh, you have to. Not at 5 months pregnant. I would not recommend that.
I was just like, I like you. Talk about getting out of comfort zone.
I don't think if I had that time again, I would do it again, just because of the sheer... I don't know how you felt when you were pregnant, but I remember in my second trimester, I felt invincible. That's how I felt, and that's probably what enabled me to do that. Because when I think about it now, I thought, what if something had happened?
Yeah.
And then we did the same thing with my son in Mexico.
Oh,
we went to see the pyramids in Mexico. But I don't know what we're talking about. Power.
Yes, yeah.
So I think whatever, and I don't like to overuse words either,
Right.
but I think finding joy in things.
100%. Yes. And it's so, I don't know, you kind of like almost overlook that. And I think it applies to children as well. There's so much, we were talking earlier about education, and there should be joy. Life is to be enjoyed, and it does not make it frivolous. It does not make it shallow. Actually, I think our birthright is to live with happiness and joy, and find that in everything that we do, whilst dealing with the uncomfortable. I think you cannot feel joy if you've not felt fear.
There has to be that yin and yang.
Yes, and the more you sort of get comfortable with the uncomfortable, that's where you literally, I think, become more and more whole, which children are. Children don't worry about trees and walls and jumping off things and injuring themselves because they're whole, and then somehow we lose that.
Yeah, we lose that with, I think it's societal conditioning, to be honest.
I feel as well. And I think in a small place like Mauritius, the blessing is you can make an impact. The word can travel, and people are, I love this about people here. They are joyful. There is a joy in them, and they just need access to it. So providing space for that, I think, is a blessing. I'm so grateful to be able to do that. I love them, that space that women come in. Like I've taken July off, and I've got messages from people saying, like,
oh, they're missing
like
the
they're
classes.
really missing. I don't think it's me, or even the dancing. It's the space, and they know that they're going to come. They're going to be loved for being there. They're going to be celebrated for every, like, oh, your arm can go beyond your ear now. Like, that's a huge joy for everyone. Yes, in the group.
And everyone's clapping each other and celebrating each other.
It is. It's what humans do naturally, actually. We remove, if we can remove competition, well, it's about understanding why competition exists. I think it's, can we do things, we don't have to do things against each other. We can do it
together.
100%
agree with you.
Yes.
Thank
I
you
can go
so
on forever.
much. I know we're short for time, and we could have this, continue having this conversation for hours. I have got a last question for you. Once your break is over, where can people come to you for dance?
So right now, Eben is my home base.
In this building.
In this actual building. And I love Eben for being that sort of center of the island. And yes, so every Tuesday, I've got a new class starting on Wednesday mornings for women who, I hate saying this, but I need to, because it's a new class, I need to find the right words, but it's for anyone maybe 45 plus, or anyone who might not feel as comfortable pushing themselves as physically as we may do in our Bollyfit classes in the evenings. So it's more, it's called Bollylift, because it's uplifting and more, it's still movement. I'll still push them a bit, but
less intense. Maybe.
Less intense, and for all women. So 45 it's the wrong thing to say.
And
but
when will it start?
It'll be
next month?
So it starts in August, in the morning on Wednesdays. Bollyfit is every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Yeah. And then you've got the kids.
And I've got my kids on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I'm slightly tempted to try one of your classes.
You're most welcome. I feel like,
actually we used to do a dance class at the office on the terrace, and then life got too full and we cancelled the class. But I'm feeling really nostalgic now, because it's reminding me of all the. You're right. You know, I go to the gym, I do Muay Thai. I get a lot of joy from it, but it's more functional. Yes. I want to be strong, and I want cardiovascular health. Whereas the dancing, as well as all the other health benefits, I heard this word from another doctor who I followed, Stacey Sims. She said, you need to find a thing that's your soul food.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And that's what the vibe
if
I
you
get.
Get that tingle from the dance, then yes, please.
Wonderful.
Yes, you're most welcome. And I think what happens is we forget that we do everything that's really good for us, but what about that tingle, the spice?
Exactly.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Nirupama. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.